Finally, after 4 years of waiting, November 5th, 2024, comes. Today is Election Day, and in the next 24 hours, we will probably know who the 47th President of the United States is. The timer indicates that there are just 6 hours left. We will go over every detail this evening and provide the most recent information from the International News Organization. At this time, polling places will begin to close in some areas of Kentucky and Indiana. After that, at 7 p.m., polling places in both states will close. At that point, we will see our first findings. Georgia, South Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia will also stop voting at the same time. Additionally, make sure to join my YouTube stream at 6 p.m. For those who want to follow my election coverage, it is Eastern Time. We will stay up on November 6th to ensure thorough coverage. We'll talk about elections for the House of Representatives, Senate, governorship, and presidency. As a result, make sure to join the YouTube stream at 6 p.m. Standard Eastern Time. In this video, I tried to express my last thoughts and hopes about the election. In addition, I want to review my election prediction and look at the betting markets and the final polls. I will start with the presidential prediction after 4 years of watching this race, 3.5 years with Joe Biden expected to be the Democratic nominee, and another 6 months with Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket. I predict that Kamala Harris will receive 251 electoral votes, and Donald Trump will receive 287. There is no doubt that the race will be competitive. I do admit, though, that Trump appears to be in a strong position right now. Contrast this with our current situation in 2016 or 2020. Both times, Trump was predicted to lose by a wide margin, but for the first time in history, there is a real expectation that he will win. He will undoubtedly win all of the solid red states, making his victory clear to all. He will also secure Iowa, Ohio, Texas, and Florida. The Iowa Seltzer poll that shows Trump is 3 points behind is completely useless. I think he was ahead by double digits thanks to Emerson. There is no doubt that he will win easily in Iowa. You know there's nothing to worry about. The crucial states that Donald Trump needs to win are Arizona and Georgia. It will be very difficult for him to reach 270. Even though Joe Biden won both of the 2020 elections, it will be very challenging to succeed without them. Trump appears to be doing remarkably well in these two contests. Look at these betting markets. Trump has a 69% chance of winning in Georgia and a 78% chance in Arizona. He also needs to defeat North Carolina. That will have a significant impact. The loss of North Carolina will undoubtedly make it more difficult for him to reach 270 electoral votes, even though it is not as crucial as Arizona or Georgia. The betting markets show that his chances of winning are favorable. He received a score of 69%. He is ahead in the polls in all 3 states. In Georgia, Trump is ahead by 1.3 points. He has a 1.2 advantage in North Carolina. Moreover, Trump has a considerable 2.8% lead in Arizona. In addition, he will require another state in the upper Midwest: Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. One of the 3 could be the reason. Nevada cannot be the state in question because it only has 6 electoral votes. If he wins in Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Nevada, he will reach 268. He will therefore require one of these 3 upper Midwest states. Right now, the state most likely to carry out that function is Pennsylvania. This has long been seen as a critical moment. According to the betting markets, Trump has a 60% chance of winning. At the moment, Michigan is in Harris's favor, Wisconsin is almost tied, and Harris has a small edge. In the polls, Trump is doing comparatively well. Given that he is routinely underrated in these polls, he is in a good position and is leading in Pennsylvania. Even though I have no doubt that the 2024 polls will be far more accurate than the current ones, they still predict a Trump win, which has never happened in states like Michigan and Wisconsin. Kamala Harris has a slight advantage. The proximity of Pennsylvania on the map and the assumption that they will vote more liberally than the Keystone State led me to assign Wisconsin and Michigan to the Harris column, even though this is not the main reason I think she will win. They seem like fiercely competitive competitions. I would not be shocked in the least if Trump were to win. To be safe, though, I classified them as tilt blue for the time being. Nevertheless, I believe Trump will win the Sun Belt and Pennsylvania. Nevada would be a major historical reversal for the former president. A Republican would win for the first time in 2 decades. The national figures show that Trump's prospects are improving. He is in a good position right now. This is definitely not the right place for Kamala Harris plus 0.1. She must have at least a 3-point lead in the popular vote. Hillary Clinton won by a margin of 2.1 and received 232 electoral votes. The popular vote went to Joe Biden by a margin of 4.5. That was solely responsible for his ability to reach 306 points. Therefore, if Kamala Harris performs worse than both Clinton and Biden, her loss in the Electoral College is all but guaranteed. Despite Trump's persistent undervaluation, I anticipate that she will outperform this polling average. My prediction is that Harris will win the popular vote by about 1%. It can't be anything more, in my opinion. However, Donald Trump is currently in a very favorable position. He is at his peak right now. You might think about 2020 or 2016. Donald Trump is experiencing unprecedented popularity as the election draws near, as evidenced by his 48.6% polling rate. I go on. I also have a Senate forecast. Republicans will probably do well in the Senate elections, in my opinion. If they didn't get the majority, I would be shocked. The GOP has a lot to gain from this map. They might still make mistakes like they did in 2022, but the chances are much lower than they were 2 years ago. In Florida and Texas, Republicans will continue to hold their positions. There is no denying that. Right now, Democrats are likely to win in the upper Midwest states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. They currently hold all 3 of those positions. Additionally, it is anticipated that they will continue to hold their positions in Nevada and Arizona. Kari Lake made a mistake and will probably lose. She should not be nominated by the Republican Party again. Although I recognize that she is well liked by Republicans, she is unpopular with independent voters. Regardless of their personal feelings for her, the middle class is still reluctant to vote for her. In effect, the Republicans are left out of those 2 races. However, their inversion makes this issue inconsequential. West Virginia's Joe Manchin is leaving. He will be replaced by Jim Justice. In Montana, Tim Sheehy is also expected to unseat incumbent Democratic candidate John Tester. Republicans will win by a significant margin once again, reaching 51. That, in my opinion, is their current minimum. Although Ohio is predicted to be a very competitive state, I believe Bernie Moreno will defeat Sherrod Brown with Donald Trump at the top of the ticket. Because of this, the Democrats are definitely at a serious disadvantage. Trump will win Ohio by almost 10 points. J.D. is from this state. Vance. In this Ohio Senate contest, the Republicans have a significant edge. As a result, I am certain that Moreno will win by a slim margin. It is unlikely that this race in Nebraska will be competitive. Republican incumbent Deb Fischer is facing a serious challenge from independent candidate Dan Osborne. It is very embarrassing for her, but I think she will win by a small margin, less than 5 points, maybe even 7. But it won't make a difference. It won't have much of an impact. In this race, the margin won't be as large as you usually anticipate. Consequently, I would like to wrap up by briefly restating my goals for the evening. Between the evening of the 5th and the morning of the 6th, I think we will have a clear indication of the winner. We'll look at the data from Georgia, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. Compared to 2020, these early results are predicted to slightly favor Republicans. Whether Trump can keep Arizona will probably be determined by the 2020 ballots. Immediately, Fox News made a prediction about Joe Biden. This time, I anticipate that an early prediction will center on Donald Trump. On election night, I argue that Georgia, Arizona, and North Carolina are states in which we can reasonably expect Trump to win. If he loses, we can be just as sure of his defeat. But I claim that the likelihood of his victory is much higher. The results of the Midwestern races in Nevada will be clearly reflected in his performance in those 3 states. It will be a long time in Nevada. The competition is fierce. They have a very slow counting rate. It could be almost a week before the Silver State winner is known. In the end, the upper Midwest will be far more significant than Nevada, are probably going to have a positive opinion of how these races are developing. I anticipate that Pennsylvania will vote in favor of Trump by a small margin. If that's the case, Trump supporters should be feeling very hopeful. There might be reason for concern if he is deficient in that area. Trump might, however, also win in Michigan and Wisconsin. There are always surprises. Although it is still skewed in favor of Trump when considering the full range of data, the lower confidence threshold shows the historical accuracy and significance of the Seltzer poll in Iowa. Trump's total would rise to 218 electoral votes if these states were included. Now, let's concentrate on the states that are most likely to back Harris. For the 13th consecutive election cycle, Democrats are poised to win in Minnesota, the home state of her running mate Tim Walz. The current betting markets heavily favor Harris, giving her a 90% chance of winning at odds of -900. In the 2020 election, Joe Biden won Minnesota by a margin of 7 percentage points. It is expected that Harris will keep New Mexico and its 5 electoral votes. When Biden won here in 2020, the difference was 11 points. Harris has a 92% chance of winning, according to polling data and current odds. All recent polls show she is ahead by at least 5 points, and her average lead in the polls is 6.7%. With 13 electoral votes, Harris is likely to maintain Democratic dominance in Virginia. Even though Biden won by a wide margin in 2020, the 2024 election was more competitive, with Trump ahead in the polls before Biden withdrew from the race. According to the latest 6 polls, Harris has increased the Democratic lead to a record margin of 5.8%. This sentiment is reflected in the betting markets, which give her a 92% chance of winning, which is in line with her odds of -1,200 in New Mexico. In the end, Harris is predicted to win both New Hampshire and the statewide race in Maine. According to Bet Online, she has a roughly 87% chance of keeping New Hampshire at odds of -700 and a higher 92% chance in Maine at odds of -1,200. In this largely blue region, aside from Pennsylvania, these two are usually the only semi-competitive contests. But in 2020, Biden won 7 points in New Hampshire and 9 points in Maine. This gives the vice president a 7-vote lead over Trump and increases her electoral vote total to 220.